thank you so much for being here. I could not be more excited to be sharing my first tutorial using one of my palettes. This little baby right here. This is the Needs palette, the Emily Edit with Makeup Revolution. It is a rush to get to be talking about this stuff finally. I've kept quiet about this for months and months and months, and now, yay, we get to do a video with it. And my next video is actually going to be like a compilation of several different eye looks with the Once palette. There's surely somebody out there saying, gosh, she won't shut up about these palettes now. Well, I'm sorry, but number one, this is huge for me, and number two, I would hate to put something out there to the masses and then not actually demonstrate them in action, show some ideas on how to use them, talk a little bit more in depth about colors and shades working together and this and that. So for today's look, where we're going to be starting off for the tutorial, I'll have my brows done and foundation and concealer, and then we just pick up and start using this for absolutely everything else, and I'm so thrilled. This is my greatest hits palette. If you didn't hear my full explanation in the announcement video, go watch the announcement video. But my thought for this palette was, what if we took from all sorts of different Makeup Revolution palettes that I've loved for years now, so like the Ultra Contour palette, the Hot Spice Blush palette, the Blush Palette Goddess, Neutrals versus Neutrals, the Light and Shade palette. Just bring all of that together in sort of a greatest hits of the brand. And let's make it doubly useful by making it a really practical palette, you know, something where you can get your natural look, which I'm going to be pointing out as we go, like here's your stopping point, let's say, for a natural eye, and then here's how to ultimately make it more of a nighttime look. Just some different ideas for how to multitask with this palette. It's so much fun. I really can't believe it. Uh-oh, I'm getting that funny feeling between my eyes and nose. I might start crying. No. Not today. But with the Once palette, you know, that larger palette, that was more of the let's be creative, let's have a ton of eyeshadow options. You know, it's a 24 color palette, so there's a lot happening in there. But this was my little basic, my practical option that can easily travel with you, that can give you your basic look or your night look all in one. That's exactly what I wanted this to be, so I hope you enjoyed the look. Okay guys, so starting out, the only things I have on my face are my foundation, which today is the CoverGirl Matte Made in M30, and then also my concealer, that's the Tarte Creaseless Concealer. So now I'm ready to actually set my under eye and my T-zone, and I like having this matte powder in here. It kind of acts like a translucent powder for me, and so I dab into that with my e.l.f. small tapered brush, and I'd used a concealer that I think really begs for a little bit of powder on top to set it. So I really like being able to have that step in this palette. So I just dab it right in, and I kind of like to use a bit of a pressing motion just to really deliberately place the product right where I want it. And then furthermore, I'm going to get some of that and take it right down my nose and just let it set the T-zone as well. This was a shade, just a matte highlight shade, so to speak, that came in that Ultra Contour palette, and I've just always liked the texture of it, and I just like to have a powder of that sort in a multitasking type palette. Next, we're gonna go to Kindness, and this is my bronzer contour shade. It's not too warm, it's not too reddish. It is a 100% matte shade. Let's adjust the mirror, shall we? And for me, I just love how it warms up the skin tone. I'll pop it on around the hairline. I've been using this product so much, and nobody's known because I couldn't talk about it. But it picks up on the brush really nicely. I feel like the color application is very smooth and even. I'm using my e.l.f. complexion brush here, and I just sometimes take it a little bit lower than where I might normally place blush. And lately I've been more about the soft contoured effect than the absolute chiseled effect, but you could do whatever you want with this. It's also nice when you just dab your brush in very lightly, get a little bit of product on, and let it just sweep over, you know, the tops of the cheeks, the top of the nose where the sun would naturally hit, and just wear it like a classic bronzer. I thought it was really a good color tone to be able to do both for me. Also, sometimes I mix it in with the blush if I want to change my blush tone a little bit and make it more neutral or deeper. Loads of options. Another thing that Courage is good for, this shade right here, is if you applied a little too much blush and you need to sort of go over it a little bit, or you just want to generally lighten the shade, you can bounce your brush back between the two and really come up with a beautiful color there. But so you can see the blush in its purest state. I'm going to use Joy right here. When you look closely at it, you can see like a very, very fine, like golden shimmer. It was the same way in the Hot Spice blush palette, that shade. And I always thought it was one of the most pigmented, nicest shades and one of my favorite tones in that palette. I've never found that sparkle to really translate onto the skin, so don't be nervous about it, but it's just something that that color contains. But it's just beautiful on the cheeks. It's kind of a coral with a little bit of earthiness to it as well, which I always love in a blush. So I'm gonna just start swirling this on the outer part of the apple of my cheeks. Just instant health and life to the skin. Oh, I love that. I don't feel like it calls for any certain lip color. It just makes me feel like a look of health, a look of like internal glow, you know? And again, if you ever apply too much, sometimes I need to do this. Take a little bit of courage and just kind of smooth things out. Sometimes right in here it looks best. And then the final face step we're gonna work in is Gratitude. And this was one of the highlighter shades in the blush palette Goddess. And I really like it. I like it because it doesn't contain any like glitter particles. There's nothing especially flaky or unnatural about it. It's just a smooth kind of pearlescent highlighting powder. And you can wear it super lightly or you can build it up. So I think a buildable highlight is one of the best things to do in a palette that you're trying to sort of bring out to the masses. I like using a smallish brush like my Moda Highlight and Glow brush. I kind of start it here right on the top of the cheek because that's one of my most flattering areas to highlight. My face tends to look the healthiest when I've got a glow radiating off of here. My skin is a little smoother here. When I pull up too close to my eyes, sometimes I'm like, I don't love the way that looks. But like you see the difference one cheek to the next. It's just a gorgeous little sheen that looks basically dewy, but you didn't apply dewy texture, which is nice. Love it. It makes me so happy. You can also dab into this and your blush to achieve the glowy blush effect that I've loved so much lately. I wanted the blush to overall be a matte appearance on the cheeks because I know not everyone's into the glowy blush, so this way you've got your highlighter right next door, and if you want to go back and forth between the two to build up a really glowy cheek, you can, but you're not obligated to, you know? And keep in mind, any of these shades work great as eyeshadows. We're gonna get into an eye look in a second, and I think I'll put Kindness in the crease. That's a really great starting point for an eye look. Ooh, I think I forgot to say earlier, but I did already do my brows. I just need to throw on a little bit of eye primer. I've got this handy here, my Urban Decay Anti-Aging Primer Potion. I always use an eye primer. I think it helps shadows cling. I think it helps their ultimate vibrancy come through. Oh, and another thing I like to do outside of these face steps from the palette is apply a little bit of a setting mist. One that I have been loving is from Makeup Revolution. It's the Hyaluronic Fix, and I just do 1, 2, 3, 4. And I feel like it gives this instant radiance to the skin. Like I can really see it right away with just those 4 spritzes. Do you know how strange it is to be sitting here doing a look with this palette and actually talking out loud about it finally? I mean, I feel like I'm in kind of down to business, like let's shoot a tutorial mode, but inside I'm kind of freaking out. And if I let myself think about it too much, I'm really going nuts over here. I think what I'm first gonna do here for you is do a really natural eye and sort of give you an idea of where a good stopping point for that might be, and then build it up a little bit for some more drama with the accent colors. So I'm gonna take Kindness actually and put this in the crease. I like it as just a medium brown. Works well, provides nice definition. And I'm using my Sigma E25 brush, which I love. Really hard for me to break out of using this all the time for this zone. But see that perfect bit of like natural shadow that this shade gives? Not too warm, not too cool. Next, I'm going to take a brush that I often use bare for blending. I don't really need to do a lot of blending outside that shade, but it's my Sigma E40. And then I'm going to take Peace right over here, which is a very gentle peach color. And I like kind of applying this on the outside of the crease because it makes everything look even more soft and smooth and just blended out into nothingness. And then I kind of gradient up to Love, which is lighter, your light cream shade, and I just let that be right up under the brow. And then if you want to add any glow to your underbrow highlight, you've got Gratitude right there. Like, I hope everybody understands how multitasking this really is. I can even use this brown called Hope in my brows as an actual brow color if I want to. I'm all about looking for ways to eliminate steps when you're busy. Next up, for the very natural everyday, I like to take Love. This is a beautiful textured matte eyeshadow cream color. See how it really does lay down some color here? It truly doesn't just look sheer, it actually has some boom, like you can tell it's there. And so I'm gonna put this on like the inner part of my lid. And then I think I'll use a little bit of Faith over here, which is a nice matte warm brown, kind of a terracotta type brown. I took these mattes from the Light and Shade palette, and this segment of shades out of that palette, they were always ones that I was drawn to using. I really like the textures, but I also just like the tones, and I felt like it wasn't glaringly warm except for this shade, you know, so you have a real option there as to whether to use that or just go with the cooler, darker brown. But sometimes I think in an effort to create the next big palette, like, people think it really does need to be something outrageous. But it was really important to me in making something. I have a real practical side to me, and I remember getting ready for work. When I worked at the TV station, I got ready at 1 in the morning. That was when my alarm went off, and that's when I started putting makeup on. And I know there are a lot of hardworking people out there too who are working a weird night shift, and you've got to be up, and maybe you want to get yourself presentable, but it needs to be in the easiest, most convenient way possible. So that's what I'm trying to shoot for with this palette, is giving you the basic look, but having it all in one easy place. And my travelers out there who want something small that they can take with them and have the confidence that, yes, I can have my everyday work look in here, but I can also bump it up a little bit. That's what I hope to give. So this is what I would call my natural everyday look. We put some love on the lid, also faith. Kindness was our quick crease color, and then we blended up above the crease with peace and love. And you wouldn't even need to take that many steps if you didn't want to. So let's absorb what this looks like for a second. Now I'm gonna build it up and make it a bit more dramatic for you. There are a couple of colors in here that I pulled from the Neutrals versus Neutrals palette, which I love. I love the peaches in there, just every gorgeous tone of neutral. And Honesty is in this one. I describe that as a satin finish, rich coral. And then Passion is like a very, very dark plum black. I didn't want a pure black, yet I also didn't want it to be a glaringly purple shade. I wanted it to be something that would just look smoky. Turn this everyday eye into a bit more of a smoky eye. So what I'm gonna do first is take my flat brush and I'm gonna dab it into Passion. And then I'm just gonna build some of this up in my outer corner. Like, this is standard Emily technique here. Like, if I had that natural eye at the start of the day, then I'm like, okay, I'm going out. I want to bump it up a notch. This is what I would do. I would take that shade and work it over most of the lid and just let it sort of overlap gently with the lighter shade. And then you can sort of flip your brush over and let that come up into your crease ever so slightly. But I just have so many visions for this palette for, like, who could use it, you know? The makeup beginner, the person who's just now experimenting with Makeup Revolution for the first time and wants to get a clue of, you know, what some of the different products are actually like. The on-the-go person, like I said, who needs a fast look in the morning. I'm gonna take a little more love and almost build that shade just slightly more to make it have a bit more of a statement here, a bit more contrast. And then this is a handy little brush called the E47. It's very small and it's nice for just certain little areas, and I'm using the highlight. I'm just gonna bop this right in here. That's a new phrase for me, bop it. Right around the innermost corner. Let it give a little more glow there. We can let it give us a bit more concentrated glow up here on the brow bone. To make a really nice blended look, I was experimenting with this the other day. You take Hope, which is your matte, just very basic chocolatey brown. And now that you've got that darkness on your lid, when you take a little bit of Hope and you blend that into the crease, like, it just makes everything mesh. Because initially we did have a soft brown in the crease, and so this kind of all brings it back and makes it make sense. So now I'm gonna blend over that just a bit, since we've really introduced some darkness here to our crease. And then we have the really fun part coming up. I don't know why I adore doing this so much, but I do. And it's hard for me not to want to do this every time I pull out the palette. But go into Honesty. This is a pretty shade on the lid too, don't get me wrong, but I like bringing that vibrant coral and going around the outside of your crease. And it looks like your crease is just radiating. Oh, it's so pretty. If you like it a little darker, not quite so coral, you can take Faith and do this same step. Also, you can use Joy, the blush, which is, as you can see, a little less pinky compared to this shade. I don't know, maybe just a little less vibrant. But see how that puts your blending almost on another level when you just gently go over the edge? This is my Sigma E36 brush, by the way. Love it! I'm going to go into a little bit of Passion again, and I'm just gonna work this in on the lower lash line, getting the bulk of the color on the outer part, so then as I drag it in, it becomes softer and softer. Something I've really enjoyed about this palette is how it can bring this combination of the two worlds of warm and cool, because I feel like Passion really cools down a look in a hurry, but then you've also got shades like Faith and Honesty here eyeshadow-wise that can kind of border that shade and just make it a bit more of an unexpected look. So next up, what I'm going to do is apply a little bit of eyeliner and some mascara, perhaps some lashes, since this is our nighttime look. I'll find a lip color as well, and then we'll see the finished look. Okay guys, for the finished look, what was added on here, I used my Revolution Renaissance Flick eyeliner there on the upper lash line, and then in my lower inner rim, I used that's this one right here. I used my Wet n Wild Ultimate Brow Highlight, which I love. I think that has great staying power in the waterline. To make it super smoky nighttime-ish, maybe you'd put a dark liner in the waterline instead. But I put on my CoverGirl Supersizer mascara and then my Ardell Wispies false lashes. So I love the way those eyes turned out, and then on my lips, what I'm wearing is my Besame Chocolate Kiss as the main color here. And then I thought I'd do a bit of a lip topper. I haven't used one in a while, so I used my Jouer Skinny Dip, and that's what's giving this pretty like golden glossiness right there in the center of the lip. But can I just say I'm so proud of that blush and that highlight, this glow that's happening in here within this little palette. Like, yay! This is so cool. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope this gave you a little more insight into how to use the Needs palette. I find it to be very basic. I really don't think anybody needs a formal tutorial to know how to use it. But if you're just wondering what kind of look does that create, this is what you can do. And please stay tuned because I've got a lot I want to show you from the Once palette as well. So thank you guys so much for your support. I'm thanking you in advance here because I'm shooting this video before anything's even launched. So regardless of how that all goes, I love you guys and I really appreciate you. And this is massive for me. So exciting. Thanks again, and I'll see you soon. Bye.